High Counselor Zixtal's central eye twitched as he reviewed the footage for the 13th time. The Mendorian merchant vessel Crystal Dawn had been transmitting normally, until it wasn't. No distress signal, no final message, just a barely perceptible shadow crossing the external cameras, followed by total darkness. "Play it again," he chittered to his aides, all 6 appendages tapping nervously against his ceremonial armor. "Focus on time stamp 234712. The hologram flickered to life in the council chamber center. The Crystal Dawn's external feed showed nothing but stars and the distant nebula clouds of the Perseus arm. Then there, a slight distortion, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The camera shifted slightly, adjusting for what their automated systems must have interpreted as a lens error. That was when the shadow passed, not across the stars, between the cameras. Something had been close enough to eclipse individual sensors without registering on the others. The feed cut to static 3 seconds later. "Impossible," muttered Sub-Counselor Venn. "No ship can operate that silently. The power requirements alone." "Tell that to the families of 3 dead crews," Zixtal snapped. "First the Bright Venture, then the Starseeker, now the Crystal Dawn. All vanished along the same trade route, all with the same signature." High Counselor, his senior military advisor, General Krell, stepped forward. The Predaxian scales shifted from green to pale blue, a sign of deep concern. "We've analyzed the pattern. Whatever's hunting our ships, it's using techniques we've only seen in one place." Zixtal's central eye focused on the general. "Where?" "Earth's oceans. Deep-sea predators. The way it tracks, the silent approach, the complete electromagnetic silence." Krell's scales rippled. "We're dealing with humans." A murmur of disagreement rushed through the chamber. "Impossible," Venn said again. "Humans are barely space-capable. They achieved FTL travel less than 50 years ago. And in that time, has anyone actually visited their military installations?" Krell challenged. "Has anyone seen their full fleet deployment? We dismissed them as primitive because they lacked the standard developments we expected. But what if," he paused, scales now almost white with agitation, "what if they developed along a completely different path?" Zixtal raised an appendage for silence. "Explain." "Every spacefaring race in the Council evolved from daylight hunters or gatherers. Our ships operate the way we do. Constant communication, active scanning, coordinated movements. But humans." Krell called up an image of Earth's oceans. Their planet's largest predators hunt in darkness and silence. No electronic emissions, no communication, just waiting. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "Summon their representative," Zixtal ordered. "Immediately." Commander Jack Reynolds kept his face carefully neutral as he studied the council chamber. 20 years as a Navy SEAL had taught him how to read a room, and this one was radiating fear. These beings, with all their advanced technology and millennia of space travel, were terrified. Good, he thought. They should be. Commander Reynolds, High Counselor Zixtal's translator, rendered his clicks and whistles into flat English. "We asked you here regarding a series of incidents." "The missing ships," Reynolds said. Not a question. He'd been briefed the moment he entered council space. "Yes." Zixtal's central eye fixed on him. "We have reason to believe humans may be involved." Reynolds allowed himself a small smile. "May I see the footage?" They played it. Reynolds watched the shadow pass, recognized the perfect approach vector, the precision of the electromagnetic silence. Pride warred with professional disappointment. Someone had gotten sloppy, letting themselves be caught on camera at all. "Well?" Zixtal demanded. "You've got pirates in your space, Counselor. But I can tell you one thing, those aren't human ships you're seeing." "How can you be so certain?" Reynolds' smile widened just slightly. "Because if they were human ships, you wouldn't have seen anything at all." The chamber erupted in alarmed chittering. Reynolds maintained his steady gaze on the High Counselor, who had gone very still. "Perhaps," Zixtel said slowly. You should tell us what exactly humans are capable of in the void. You want to see what we're capable of. Reynolds watched the council members shift uncomfortably. Follow me. The human led them through the umbilical connecting the council station to his ship, the U.S. Nightwalker. Unlike the gleaming vessels in the council's fleet, the Nightwalker's hull was a patchwork of blacks and grays that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. 10 years ago, Reynolds began as they entered the ship's briefing room. We discovered something interesting during our first neural interface trials. Dr. Marcus Shaw, would you care to explain? A tall man with graying temples stepped forward, activating a holographic display. We were testing standard navigational systems, the same ones you use, but our human pilots kept reporting something odd. They could feel the ship. All pilots feel their vessels, General Krell interrupted. The interface. No, Shaw cut him off. They felt it. Like a predator feels its own body. Watch. The display showed brain scans, human and alien pilots interfacing with ship systems. The alien brains lit up in organized patterns, mechanical and predictable. The human brains looked different. They were lighting up in regions associated with hunting, with stalking, with the primitive hindbrain that guided predatory movements. We evolved from pursuit predators, Shaw continued. Our brains are hardwired for hunting. Tracking prey, moving silently, striking from ambush. When we interface with ships, we don't just control them, we become them. Reynolds nodded to a technician. The briefing room's lights dimmed. What we're about to show you has never been seen outside of Earth's military, he said. This is the moment we realize what we could really do in space. The hologram shifted to footage of an early test flight. A standard Earth vessel approached an automated target drone. Everything looked normal until the ship's power signature suddenly vanished. Impossible. Sub-Counselor Venn leaped up. No ship can function without power. No conventional ship, Reynolds corrected. But we learned from Earth's deep-sea hunters. Compare this to the hunting pattern of a sperm whale. A second hologram appeared, showing the massive creature's descent into darkness. Total biological shutdown except for essential systems. Silent running isn't just a technique for us, it's in our DNA. He gestured, and the lights raised slightly. We tried teaching other species. The results were unfortunate. New footage played. An Arcanian pilot attempting the same maneuver. The alien's vital signs spiked into panic within seconds of power reduction. The test had to be aborted when they began experiencing severe psychological distress. Your species evolved in constant communication with each other, Shaw explained gently. Your ships reflect that. Constant signals. Active scanning. Continuous data exchange. The idea of being alone in the void, silent and invisible. He shrugged. It goes against everything you are. But for humans, Reynolds continued, it feels natural. Like slipping into darkness to hunt. We call it void walking. He touched a control panel, and one wall of the briefing room became transparent, revealing the massive hangar. The council members gasped. 5 ships hung in the darkness, their surfaces rippling with what looked like liquid shadow. They were predatory shapes, lean and lethal, unlike anything in the council's fleets. The Void Walker program, Reynolds said softly. Ships designed to operate in complete electromagnetic silence. No active scanning, no communications, just passive sensors and the human ability to feel our way through space, like our ancestors felt their way through darkened forests. A sudden alarm cut through the briefing. Reynolds touched his neural interface, his expression darkening. What is it? Zixtel demanded. A civilian transport just dropped out of FTL near the Carina sector. No distress call, but Reynolds' eyes narrowed. The shutdown pattern matches what you showed me earlier. The council members looked at the Void Walker ships with new understanding and new fear. Time to show you what these ships can really do, Reynolds said, already moving toward the hangar. Unless you prefer to wait here. The aliens exchanged glances, General Krall stepped forward. "We will observe," he said. "We need to understand what we're dealing with." Reynolds smiled, but it wasn't entirely reassuring. "Then you'd better strap in. Void walking isn't for the faint of heart." The U.S. Shadowfin sliced through space like a shark through dark water. Reynolds stood at the neural interface hub, his crew linked into their stations around him. Through the ship's systems, he could feel them all, their heartbeats, their breathing, their focused concentration. "Ghost status." He called to his tactical officer. "Maya, Ghost." Martinez's fingers danced across her console without actually touching it, interfacing directly through her neural link. "All weapons cold, but primed. We're running silent as a tomb, Commander." "Wraith, what are we hearing?" Derek Wraith Williams had his eyes closed, fully immersed in the sensor feeds. "Picking up debris scatter at coordinates 227 Mark III. Residual engine plasma. Civilian grade. The transport passed through here less than 30 minutes ago." From the observer's station, General Krall watched in fascination and mounting unease. The human crew operated in near-total darkness, their stations illuminated only by the faint blue glow of neural interfaces. More disturbing was the way they moved, synchronized, fluid, like a single organism. "Phantom, how's our signature?" Reynolds asked. Katie Phantom O'Brien's voice came back soft but clear. "We're running at 2% standard emissions. They'd need to be within 50 kilometers to detect us, and even then we'd look like background radiation." Reynolds nodded, feeling the ship's systems through his interface. The Shadowfin wasn't just running quiet, it was hunting. Every system was tuned to passive reception, drinking in the faintest signals from the void. "Contact," Wraith suddenly whispered. "Bearing 182 Mark IV. Large mass, trying to mask their signature, but their heat exchangers are sloppy. Has to be the target vessel." Reynolds closed his eyes, merging deeper with the ship's sensors. "Yes, there, a shadow against the stars, moving like it thought it was invisible. Amateur hour. Ghost, plot an intercept course. Phantom, initiate full predator mode." The lighting dropped to almost nothing as the Shadowfin systems went into ultra-silent running. Reynolds felt the change through his interface, the ship becoming truly alive, every surface adapting to mask their presence. "Sir," Krall's voice shook slightly. "I've never seen readings this low. You're barely registering as matter, let alone a ship." "That's the point, General." Reynolds allowed himself a small smile. "We're not just hiding. We're hunting." The Shadowfin moved like liquid night, adjusting its course in microscopic bursts that bled into the background radiation of space. Through passive sensors, Reynolds watched their target growing larger, a modified freighter, heavily armed but clumsy in its movements. "They're using active scanners," Wraith reported with professional disgust. "Might as well be shooting flares." "Range 600 kilometers, Ghost announced. "We can take the shot." Reynolds shook his head. "No, we do this old school. Show our guests how humans hunt." The crew's anticipation rippled through the neural net. They'd trained for this. The perfect approach, the killing stroke. 500 kilometers, Ghost whispered. 400. Reynolds felt the ship's excitement building, a predator closing on prey. The target ship continued on, oblivious, its active scanners searching everywhere except where death approached. 200 kilometers, Ghost breathed. 100. "Now," Reynolds commanded. The Shadowfin struck like a cobra. One moment they were invisible. The next, they materialized practically on top of the target vessel, weapons primed and locked. "Attention, unidentified vessel." Reynolds' voice cut through all frequencies. "You're surrounded by a Void Walker-class warship. Power down or be destroyed." The target's response was panic, a frantic attempt to bring weapons online. Before they could, Ghost had already disabled their primary systems with surgical precision. "Textbook execution," Reynolds announced, then turned to their observers. "That, council members, is how humans hunt in space. But Krell wasn't looking at the disabled vessel. He was staring at their sensor readings with dawning horror. "Commander," he chittered urgently. "These energy patterns in their engine core, they're not pirates." Reynolds frowned, accessing the data through his interface. His expression hardened as the analysis came through. "Everyone back to battle stations," he ordered. "This just got complicated. Those engines are Nexus technology, and they're not supposed to exist in this sector of space." The hunt, it seemed, was just beginning. "Talk to me, Phantom." Reynolds stood in the Shadowfin's interrogation chamber, watching their prisoner through one-way glass. The captured vessel's pilot sat hunched in the center, its chitinous exoskeleton reflecting the harsh lights. Katie Phantom O'Brien consulted her neural feed. "Definitely Nexus tech, sir. The engine signature matches their quantum harmonic patterns, but it's different, more advanced than anything we've seen from them before. They're not supposed to be in this sector at all." Krell chittered nervously. "The Nexus Collective signed the Antares Treaty. They're restricted to their own space." Reynolds watched the prisoner's subtle movements, the way its antennae twitched at regular intervals. "Ghost, are you picking up any transmissions?" "Nothing obvious," Martins replied, then paused. "Wait, there's something." "Sir, we're detecting quantum fluctuations from its carapace. They're barely there, but it's still connected to the hive mind," Reynolds finished. "Even here." The revelation hit the council members like a physical blow. The Nexus were supposed to be contained, their hive mind consciousness limited to their own territory. If they could maintain quantum links at this distance. Wraith full spectrum analysis of nearby space. Now, William's voice came back tense. "Sir, I'm detecting similar quantum signatures scattered throughout the sector. They're incredibly well hidden, masked as background radiation. If we hadn't captured this one, we'd never have known they were here." Reynolds' jaw tightened. He turned to Krell. "Your space is already invaded, General. These aren't pirates. They're advanced scouts." The prisoner's antenna suddenly went rigid. Before anyone could react, it convulsed, its exoskeleton cracking as internal organs literally dissolved. "Damn it." Reynolds slammed his fist on the observation window. "They killed it through the quantum link. Incoming." Ghost's warning cut through the ship. Multiple signatures dropping out of FTL. "They're using some kind of... Oh God." The Shadowfin's view screens lit up as space itself seemed to tear. Dozens of Nexus vessels emerged, but not through normal FTL channels. They simply appeared, as if they'd been there all along, hidden behind veils of twisted space-time. "They've been watching us," Wraith reported, his voice tight. "Learning how we hunt. These ships, they're trying to copy our stealth systems." Reynolds felt the change through his neural interface, the Shadowfin responding to imminent threat, like muscles tensing before a fight. "Phantom. Status. They're flooding local space with quantum interference," O'Brien reported. "Trying to disrupt our neural links. But there's something else. These patterns." She never finished. Every alien observer on the bridge suddenly collapsed, clutching their heads in agony. Krell writhed on the deck, scales flashing through colors in random patterns. "They're broadcasting some kind of psychic attack," Ghost announced. "But why aren't we?" "Because we're predators," Reynolds realized. "Our brains are too primitive for their advanced neural warfare. They designed it for hive-mind-compatible species." He allowed himself a grim smile. They didn't count on that being a weakness. Through the view screens, the Nexus ships moved with horrifying coordination, their movements synchronized by their shared consciousness. But Reynolds could see something else, something that made his hunter's instincts sing. "They're overconfident," he said softly. "They think they've learned to hunt like us, but they're still thinking like a hive mind, still dependent on constant communication." He opened a channel to all human crew. "Listen up. The Nexus just showed us their playbook. They can hide their ships, but they can't break their connection to the hive mind. That's their weakness. Sir, Ghost's voice held predatory anticipation. The Nemesis and the Night Stalker just dropped out of FTL behind us. Captain Chen and Commander Rodriguez are requesting orders. Reynolds felt it. The change in his crew from hunted to hunters. The Shadowfin's systems thrummed with lethal purpose. Send to all Void Walker vessels, he commanded. Execute Protocol Alpha 7. We're taking the fight to them. In the darkness of space, 3 human ships vanished from all sensors, moving like sharks through dark water. The hunt was about to become a war. Space erupted in silent fury as the Shadowfin struck first, its stealth systems maintaining coverage even as it fired. 2 Nexus vessels shattered before their hive mind could react, their quantum links becoming their undoing as the deaths echoed through their collective consciousness. Status. Reynolds commanded, feeling the ship's movements through his neural interface as Ghost executed a perfect attack run. Nemesis is engaging from Vector 317. Martines reported, her fingers dancing through holographic targeting displays. Night Stalker is. She paused. Sir, I've lost track of Rodriguez. Reynolds smiled. Good. That means the Nexos can't track him either. The enemy fleet's formation was breaking down, their synchronized movements becoming erratic as they tried to adapt to an enemy they couldn't predict. Human neural interfaces, designed to work in isolation, proved superior to the Nexos' shared consciousness in the chaos of battle. New contacts. Wraith's warning came sharp and urgent. They're doing something with their quantum field. Some kind of. Space distorted. Where there had been dozens of Nexus ships, there were now hundreds, each emerging from what looked like tears in reality itself. They're using quantum tunneling. O'Brien breathed, her engineer's mind racing through calculations, pulling reinforcements from across light years through artificial wormholes. Reynolds watched the tactical display, his predator's instincts reading the patterns. The Nexos were panicking, calling in everything they had. And that meant, they're afraid, he said softly. For the first time in their history, they're facing something they can't predict or control. Ghost, broadcast to all Void Walker vessels. Initiate hunting pattern Delta. The 3 human ships moved like a wolf pack, striking from different vectors, vanishing before the Nexus could track them. The hive mind's advantage of instant communication became its weakness. Each loss, each moment of fear rippled through the entire fleet instantly. Sir, O'Brien's cry came too late. A quantum beam lanced through their stealth field, catching the Shadowfin's port side. Reynolds felt the hit through his neural link, as if it were his own body being wounded. Phantom. Damage report. Port stealth systems are down. They've adapted, they're using our own attack patterns too. Her voice cut off as her station exploded in a shower of sparks. Katie. Reynolds tried to reach her through the neural net, but found only static. Bridge to engineering. Nothing. Ghost, get us clear. Wraith, find Mia. Another hit rocked the ship. Through the neural interface, Reynolds felt systems failing, felt the Shadowfin's pain as his own. The Nexos had learned faster than expected, using their quantum links to process combat data at impossible speeds. Multiple boarding signatures. Ghost's hands flew across her console. They're using the damaged section too. The bridge doors exploded inward. Nexus drone warriors poured through, their carapaces gleaming with the same quantum-shifting technology as their ships. Reynolds drew his sidearm, but the drones ignored him completely. They went straight for O'Brien's empty station. They want our tech, Wraith realized. They're not here to kill us, they're here to learn. Reynolds felt something else through the neural link, a familiar presence, wounded but alive. Katie was conscious, fighting off borders in engineering. But something was wrong. The Nexos weren't trying to kill her either. They were. They're attempting a forced neural link. Ghost horror was evident. They're trying to connect her to their hive mind. Reynolds made his decision instantly. Ghost, execute Protocol Omega. Full neural disconnect. Now. Sir, That could kill us all. Do it. Martinez slammed her hand down on the emergency disconnect. Every neural interface on the ship cut out simultaneously. In the sudden darkness, in the total isolation from their ship's systems, the human crew felt something they hadn't experienced since training. Pure, primal hunter's instinct. Now, Reynolds said in the darkness, feeling more human and more dangerous than ever, let's show them what we can really do. The real battle was just beginning. In the darkness of the Shadowfin's bridge, Reynolds moved like a ghost. Without neural interfaces, without advanced technology, he and his crew fell back on something far more ancient, pure predatory instinct. The Nexus drones, designed to combat high-tech opponents, found themselves facing something their hive mind couldn't process. Humans fighting like their cave-dwelling ancestors, all savage grace and lethal precision. Contact front. Ghost's whisper carried through the darkness. A drone's carapace shattered under her perfectly aimed strike. Its quantum systems useless against such primitive warfare. They're adapting, Wraith called from his position, trying to re-establish their neural network, but without our tech as a bridge. A scream cut through the ship's comm system. Katie's voice, filled with agony and something else. Something alien. Engineering, report. Reynolds barked, ducking under a drone's attack and dropping it with his combat knife. No response. Sir, Ghost's voice was tight. I'm getting readings from engineering. The Nexus. They're trying something new. Reynolds felt it before he saw it. A change in the air, in the very fabric of space around them. The emergency lights flickered, casting strange shadows as Katie emerged from the corridor. But it wasn't just Katie anymore. Her eyes glowed with quantum energy, her movements jerky and alien. We understand now, she said, her voice overlaid with harmonic frequencies. Your primitive minds. They're not a weakness. They're the key. Katie. Reynolds stepped forward, but Ghost held him back. Look at her skin, Ghost whispered. Katie's exposed skin was changing, developing patterns that shifted and flowed like living chrome. Your body's adapted to hunt in darkness, the hybrid thing wearing Katie's face continued. So we're adapting too. The hive mind is evolving. Reynolds watched in horror as the chrome patterns spread, realizing what the Nexus had done. They hadn't just connected Katie to their hive mind. They'd used her neural interface to understand how human predatory instincts worked. Now they were trying to replicate them. Sir, Wraith's urgent call came from the sensor station. The Nexus fleet. Their ships are changing. Through the viewport, Reynolds watched as enemy vessels transformed. Their rigid crystalline structures flowed like liquid metal, reshaping into forms that resembled Earth's deep-sea predators. Some took on the sleek lines of sharks, others the tentacled horror of giant squid. They're copying us, Ghost breathed. Not just our technology. They're copying our evolution. Katie convulsed, the chrome patterns on her skin pulsing. But they made a mistake, she ground out, fighting the hive mind's control. Can't copy. Millions of years. In minutes. Reynolds understood instantly. The Nexus tried to force evolution, to hotwire their bodies and ships for predatory warfare. But evolution doesn't work like that. The changes. Katie struggled, her human consciousness battling the hive mind. They're unstable. The quantum fields, rejecting the new forms. As if to confirm her words, several Nexus ships in view began to distort, their borrowed predatory shapes twisting in impossible ways. Ghost, Reynolds commanded, get our neural interfaces back online. Wraith, the moment we're connected, I want full spectrum analysis of those quantum fluctuations. If their forced evolution is failing. Commander, Katie's scream was almost entirely human this time. Do it now. The hive mind, it's fragmenting, can't hold the new patterns. Reynolds slammed his hand on the emergency restart. Neural interfaces surged back to life across the ship. Through the restored connection, he felt the Shadowfin systems come online, felt his crew's minds link back into the hunt. "Sir," Ghost's voice held predatory satisfaction, "I'm detecting cascade failures throughout the Nexus fleet. Their quantum fields are collapsing." "And Katie?" O'Brien collapsed to her knees, the chrome patterns on her skin flaking away like dead scales. But when she looked up, her eyes were clear, human, and filled with dangerous knowledge. "I was in their hive mind," she said. "I saw everything. Their plans, their fears." She stood, unsteady but determined. "And I know how to hurt them." Reynolds helped her to her station. "Tell me. We've been hunting them wrong." Katie's fingers flew across her console. "We need to stop thinking like lone predators. It's time to hunt like a pack." The Shadowfin's systems hummed with renewed purpose as Katie began to explain exactly how to tear a hive mind apart. Their quantum network isn't just communication. Katie's hands flew across her console as she interfaced with the Shadowfin systems. "It's their entire consciousness. Break it in the right way, and the hive mind shatters," Reynolds finished. Through the neural link, he felt the ship processing Katie's insights, adapting its stealth systems to target quantum frequencies. "Multiple contacts," Wraith called out. "They're deploying their quantum scanning array. It's massive." The view screen showed a structure unfolding in space, a vast lattice of crystalline sensors, each facet pulsing with energy. The remaining Nexus ships arranged themselves around it in a defensive formation. "That array will detect anything that moves," Ghost warned. "No stealth system can hide from quantum-level scanning." Reynolds smiled. "They still don't understand, Katie. They think like a hive mind. Act like a hive mind." O'Brien's voice held predatory satisfaction. "So they built their defense like one. But I learned something when they linked me in. The bigger the network, the harder it falls." Reynolds nodded. "Ghost, send to Nemesis and Night Stalker. Execute Protocol Sigma." The 3 Void Walker ships moved into position, their stealth systems deliberately degrading. On the quantum array sensors, they must have looked like wounded prey. "They're powering up the array," Wraith reported. "Full quantum scan in 30 seconds. "Remember," Reynolds addressed his crew, "we're not hunting like sharks anymore. We're hunting like wolves." The array fired, bathing local space in quantum energy. Every molecule, every atom became visible to the Nexus sensors. The hive mind satisfaction rippled through subspace. They could see everything now. Everything except what was actually hunting them. "Now," Reynolds commanded. The Shadowfin's stealth systems didn't try to hide from the quantum scan. Instead, they embraced it, using the enemy's own energy to mask their approach. Ghost's targeting solutions were perfect. They struck not at the array itself, but at the precise frequencies Katie had identified. The effect rippled through the Nexus fleet instantly. Ships spun out of formation as conflicting commands tore through their shared consciousness. The array's crystalline structure began to fracture, overwhelmed by feedback from its own sensors. "Second wave, incoming," Ghost called. The Nemesis and Night Stalker struck from opposite vectors, their attacks synchronized through human neural links that the Nexus couldn't detect or comprehend. They weren't trying to destroy the enemy ships. They were forcing them to process too much information too quickly. "Their hive mind is starting to fragment," Katie reported, monitoring the quantum frequencies. "The forced evolution made them unstable. Now they can't maintain cohesion under stress." Reynolds watched through the neural interface as the Nexus fleet began to tear itself apart. Ships fired on their own allies, their crews' minds unable to distinguish friend from foe as the hive mind collapsed. "Sir," Wraith's warning came sharp. "They're trying to stabilize. Rerouting all power to." The quantum array exploded in a burst of impossible light. When the glare faded, Reynolds saw something that chilled even his predator's blood. The remaining Nexus ships had merged, forming a single massive vessel that pulsed with desperate, dying consciousness. A wounded beast making its final stand. "All power to weapons," Reynolds commanded. "We end this now." But Katie raised her hand. "Wait." Look. Through the view screen, they watched as the combined Nexus ship began to break apart. Not from weapons fire, but from within. The forced evolution, the quantum instabilities, the fragmenting hive mind. It was all coming apart at once. They tried to become something they weren't, Katie said softly. Tried to steal what evolution spent millions of years perfecting. And now, the ship's death throes were spectacular. Quantum energy cascaded through its structure, tearing apart the very atoms that held it together. In moments, nothing remained but scattered debris and echoing silence. Reynolds stood at his command station, feeling the Shadowfin systems settle back into their natural rhythms. Send to command, he ordered. Threat eliminated. But, Ghost prompted. But we need to prepare. The Nexos weren't acting alone. Katie saw something in their hive mind, something that scared even them. And it's coming. The human ships hung in the void, predators sensing an even greater hunt on the horizon. This victory was just the beginning. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Reynolds stood before them, his crew flanking him as he delivered his report. The holographic displays behind him showed the aftermath of the Nexus battle and the disturbing data Katie had extracted from their hive mind. The Nexos weren't invading, Reynolds explained. They were running. What they found in the void between galaxies. He paused, letting the implications sink in. It scared them enough to risk everything on forced evolution. Katie stepped forward, her neural implants still showing traces of chrome where the hive mind had tried to change her. They detected something out there. A presence that hunts entire civilizations, something that makes us look like prey. The council chamber erupted in frightened chittering. High Counselor Zixtal raised all 6 appendages for silence. Show them. Reynolds nodded to Ghost. Martinez activated the final recording from the Nexus hive mind. The holographic display filled with images that defied comprehension, vast shapes moving between galaxies, hunting patterns that operated on a cosmic scale. The Nexus tried to adapt to face this threat, Katie continued. But they did it wrong. They tried to steal predatory instincts instead of learning from them. That's why their evolution failed. Which brings us to our proposal, Reynolds said. Through his neural interface, he felt the Shadowfin overhead power up its training systems. We can't steal evolution, but we can teach it. The chamber's wall shimmered, revealing a massive training facility. Inside, aliens of various species worked alongside human instructors, learning not just Void Walker technology, but something more fundamental. The first cross-species hunter program, Ghost explained. We're not teaching them to be human predators. We're helping them find their own species' predatory instincts buried under millennia of civilization. Wraith brought up the training data. The Arcadians are learning to use their natural sonar abilities for passive scanning. Predaxians are adapting their color-changing skin into next-generation stealth systems. Each species has predatory ancestors. We're just helping them remember. Because what's coming won't be fought with just technology, Reynolds continued. It won't be fought with just instinct either. We need both. We need every species' unique evolutionary advantages. Katie stepped to the main console, her fingers dancing across the controls. The chamber's lights dimmed, and stars filled the space around them. But these weren't normal stars. They were moving, hunting. The void between galaxies isn't empty, she said softly. It's a hunting ground. And something out there has noticed us. All of us. Reynolds watched the council members' reactions. Fear, yes, but something else too. Something awakening in species that had forgotten they were ever anything but civilized. The Voidwalker program is expanding, he announced. Not just ships now. Entire battle groups combining the strengths of every species. Human predatory instincts, Arcadian sonar, Predaxian camouflage, even modified versions of Nexus quantum technology. The hive mind taught me something important, Katie added. Unity doesn't mean losing yourself to a collective. True unity is like a wolf pack, each member unique, each vital, all working together. The displays showed the new ships already under construction, hybrid vessels incorporating the best of every species' evolutionary advantages, not twisted by forced evolution, but naturally adapted through cooperation and understanding. We're not just teaching hunting techniques, Reynolds concluded. We're teaching something the Nexus never understood: the difference between stealing evolution and learning from it. High Counselor Zixtol rose. And if these cosmic predators come for our galaxies? Reynolds smiled, but it wasn't entirely pleasant. Then they'll learn what happens when you turn an entire galaxy into a pack of hunters. Through his neural link, he felt the Shadowfin overhead, his ship, his partner in the hunt. But now he felt something else too: the stirring of ancient instincts in species across the galaxy, predatory DNA awakening from its long sleep. The void had always been a hunting ground, but soon, very soon, the hunters would become the hunted. And in the darkness between the stars, something vast and hungry sensed the change and began to feel, for the first time in eons, the faintest trace of fear.